In the early days of the world, the villages of men were as points of light amid the darkness. In one village, unremarkable from the others, a man forged a sword and a shield and a breastplate of bronze, and so they called him Smith. But his were not the first sword, nor armor. Smith ventured out into the wild to see the other villages, braving the dangers of the woods to meet other men in the world. He fought alone and overcame deadly monsters and wild animals that most of the early traders would have fled. He visited one village, then another, and word began to spread of his skill. But he was not the first traveler. One day he came upon the cabin of a woodsman who lived on his own. The woodsman was impressed with Smith's sword and battle scars and wanted to test his skill by sparring. His axe and wooden buckler against Smith's bronze sword and shield. A battle to the first fall, but Smith was against it. He had fought many times and knew he would have to fight again in the future. He felt it was wrong to risk injury to either one of them for a mere practice duel. The woodsman insisted, saying that he had to know what it was like to fight a man like Smith, and so he told Smith that, living alone in the wild, he had become friends with a powerful spirit. If the woodsman fell first, he would ask the spirit to grant Smith a wish. Smith's hopes and dreams for the future were much grander than his words, and he could not ignore the tremendous good a wish would do in his hands, so he reluctantly agreed. They fought hard. The woodsman was much stronger than Smith, and surprisingly skilled at combat. After 1 minute, he managed to catch Smith off balance, and the heavy blow to his shield knocked the man to one knee. The woodsman declared that he had won, though he sounded quite disappointed. But Smith wanted that wish, and so he said that they were fighting to the first fall, and that was not a fall. The woodsman did not argue, saying only that Smith was holding back too much out of fear of injuring him, and so now, if Smith should lose, the woodsman would ask his friend the spirit to place a curse upon him. And so they fought again, sword and axe clashing against each other's shield for 2 minutes. Smith fought much harder this time, and even grazed a woodsman's weapon arm, drawing blood. But woodsman's counterattack dented Smith's breastplate and knocked him sprawling, such that Smith landed on his hands and knees. The woodsman declared that he had won, though he still sounded a little disappointed. But Smith wanted that wish, and did not want to be cursed, and so he said that they were fighting to the first fall, and that was not a fall. The woodsman did not argue, saying only that they must agree on what would constitute a fall, and so Smith, who was currently holding himself up on his sword and shield, said it would count as a fall when one of their backs touched the ground. The woodsman agreed, and Smith stood up to fight again. Their battle was like a raging storm in a small clearing of the forest, as their blades clashed for 3 minutes. When the woodsman knocked the blade from Smith's hand, Smith managed to catch him with a shield blow, disarming him of his axe, and they began to wrestle. The woodsman's buckler flew off as they grappled on their feet for 4 minutes, until finally the woodsman managed to sweep Smith's leg, smashing him to the ground on his back. The woodsman declared that he had won, finally satisfied, and Smith said nothing, dejected. He awaited pronouncement of the curse he would receive, and the woodsman said that, for losing, no wish would be granted. Instead, Smith would be cursed, that as long as he lived, and as long as he sought to lead men, every danger to his lands and to his people would somehow find him first, or would strike when he was near at hand. And Smith was shocked, for, as he told the woodsman, that would have been his wish. And the woodsman laughed as he helped Smith to his feet and took him into his cottage for supper.